Thanks to the success of streaming networks, science fiction has found a bit of an awakening in recent years, with shows like Dark, The Expanse, and Star Trek making its way back on the small screen. This is a great time to be a fan of science fiction. All of this pales in comparison to the height of sci-fi, and that's the 1990s. During this time, we had 3 classic Star Trek shows: The X-Files, Stargate, Babylon 5, Quantum Leap, Alien Nation, and a few more. Today's focus, Sliders, despite its bevy of behind-the-scenes issues, remains one of the most underrated pieces of science fiction ever created, which makes it the subject of Lost and Found. As usual, if you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe with the notification bell on. Before getting to my thoughts on the series Sliders, I thought I'd make mention of something that had been brought to my attention after writing and recording this. Joe Blow, a wonderful content creator on YouTube, had posted his review for Sliders under their umbrella of reviews called Gone But Not Forgotten. The time of this is pretty poor on my behalf, and I admittedly get a small kick out of their recent TV dissection being worded pretty closely to that of Lost and Found. No, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but even on the outside looking in, you have to admit, that's pretty close. The best way I can sum up this is just a small joke for one of my favorite shows.
I am a psychic. We work for the Santa Barbara Police Department. We've solved over 47 cases. I'm also a pharmaceutical rep, if that means anything to you.
You've seen The Mentalist, right?
Yes.
It's like that.
Except that guy's a fake.
Right. If I was a fake psychic, it would be eerily similar.
Exactly the same.
A virtual carbon copy.
Alright, that's all I have to say. Back to the review. Sliders is an American science fiction show that debuted in 1995 on the Fox network. The show follows Quinn Mallory, played by Jerry O'Connell, a student at the fictional California University seeking his master's degree in physics, specializing in superstring theory. During this time, he invents a device that allows people to travel from one parallel universe to another, referred to as sliding. During his second test, Quinn invites his friend Wade Wells, as well as his mentor/professor, Maximilian Arturo, to join him.
You 4. That's you 4, Mr. Benish, not you 2.
The wormhole grows unstable and accidentally sucks in singer Remi Brown, who is unfortunately driving by Quinn's house during the test. The device timer activates accidentally, losing the home coordinates, forcing the group to slide from universe to find the universe they call home. Sliders was created by Tracy Torme and Robert K. Weiss. Torme had worked on Star Trek The Next Generation as a story editor and writer. He had also prior film experience writing the screenplay for Fire in the Sky. Weiss actually had a much different career, and almost 180 from his partner's science fiction background. Weiss had partnered with the Zucker brothers to produce numerous films, including the Scary Movie series, The Ladies' Man, Tommy Boy, Naked Gun, and other films of that nature. The concept for Sliders was developed from Torme's inspiration on history. In a 2001 interview with French magazine Generation Series, Torme said he was reading a book on the American Revolution and there was a moment where George Washington was nearly killed, a moment that would have changed history forever. It got him to think about how one moment, one person being killed, could change all these little moments in the future, and thus he imagined parallel universes. Ironically, the encouragement to depart filmmaking and seek work in television was from that of one Gene Roddenberry. The first 3 seasons of Sliders was shown on the Fox network, with the first 2 being considered the strongest from both fans and the creative team. During this run, the primary focus was telling stories of alternate histories and social norms. Examples include if America was conquered by the Soviet Union, or Britain had won the Revolutionary War. The 3rd season was really the beginning of the downfall to the show, as it saw an increase in network oversight. Fox had reduced total creative control of Tracy Torme, and plots were pushed to have more focus on action, as well as riffing on major genre films like Twister or Species. Torme and Weiss considered this the beginning of the end, culminating in the firing of John Rhys Davies, who played Professor Maximilian Arturo. Torme then decided to not contractually continue to work on the show he created himself, in light of massive creative decisions and interference from the network. Torme was replaced by writer David Peckinpah, who would serve as showrunner. Peckinpah had been the primary focus of backlash from the fans of the show, stating he was the reason the show jumped the shark. The 4th and 5th, or final season, would move to the Sci-Fi channel, with a renewed focus on the original alternate history premise seen in the first 2 seasons. This would also include more focus on the Cro-Mags. a species of technologically advanced militaristic humanoids hell-bent on dominating all parallel Earths. Wow, that's a mouthful. Out of the entire cast, Clea Van Derricks, Remi Brown, or Remi for short, would remain the only reoccurring character throughout the entire show's run. Jerry O'Connell, who played the lead role of Quinn Mallory, had said the first 2 seasons went smoothly, but the changing direction and tone was apparent in the 3rd season. John Rhys-Davies had become critical of the show's writing, stating that the initial concept could have been the best show on television, but the writing had devolved into what he called incomprehensible gibberish. He had further stated in a later interview that the show was not getting writers who knew about science fiction, but rather looting ideas from other successful works. Further issues built up with Jerry O'Connell and his brother Charlie, who had been a main guest role in season 4, leaving to pursue a career in film. Sabrina Lloyd, who had played the best friend / love interest of Quinn, decided not to return to the show after season 3. According to sources, there was significant issues between her and Carrie Werrer, who played Captain Maggie Beckett in a main role from season 3 onward. According to multiple crew members, Peckinpah had attempted to have a relationship with Lloyd, and when his advances were rejected, along with Lloyd asking for a raise, the character of Wade was sentenced to a Cro-Mag breeding camp. In 2004, the writer and producer was recorded on tape boasting about this rewrite and the fate of the character.
Boo! You suck!
Then, the 5th season had its own issues behind the scenes, with the production team aware that the show would not be renewed. The team had reduced the budget of each episode and had saved for the final episode, a climactic season finale. The money was instead used for the penultimate episode of the series, Eye of the Storm, and the last episode was left with an unresolved cliffhanger. Several insiders had stated this was potentially done on purpose, as belief had emerged that Sci-Fi had lost interest in the show so much that they weren't even reading the scripts anymore. This apparent theory happened despite the fact that this show was the highest rated program for the network. Sliders was / is a great show, at least the first 2 seasons. The show had the ability to become as genre-defining as other 90s shows like Quantum Leap, which used a somewhat similar premise of a device to travel. Unfortunately, Sliders never quite got there, but still churned out some great television. One of my personal favorite episodes from the show, one that had cool bits of sci-fi, but also a study of society, was the season 1 episode, Luck of the Draw. The episode had the Sliders arrive on an alternate Earth where citizens are encouraged to play and win a lottery. However, the lottery is a system of population control, with the winners forced to take part in a state-sponsored euthanasia. Another neat episode from the first season, one sure to roll some eyes, was the season 1 episode, The Weaker Sex.
Well, evidently we've landed on a world where women are in authority and men are relegated to a second-class status.
In the episode, the group arrives to a world where the traditional gender roles have been reversed, with women playing sports, holding public office, flying planes, and are captains of the industry while men stay at home cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the kids. This episode is very 1990s.
I mean, what about my needs?
Needs? Oh, that's all I ever hear about, are your needs.
But represents the storytelling Torme and his crew wanted. Sliders, despite the excellent writing featured in the first 2 seasons, was a casualty of studio and network involvement. This is something that is common, but is without a doubt the reason the show failed. The show's push for science fiction storytelling interweaved with current day politics was very reminiscent of Star Trek, just without space. Unfortunately, the network didn't trust fans to enjoy the science fiction part and relented to action-packed storylines and ripping off scenes of famous genre-defining films. In this, the cast departed, some unhappier than others, and created one of the most bizarre downfalls to a show I've ever seen. In 2019, Jerry O'Connell and John Rhys-Davies had spoken about potentially reviving the series. Apparently, the two have had numerous talks in private about the show's revival, which would focus on the thought-provoking aspects of alternate worlds. Rumors are that the two have spoken to rights holder NBC Universal about bringing this back, with creator Tracy Torme being interested in returning as well. I'd love to pitch my What If Sliders return for a revival, as I did with my previous video, Burn Notice. If you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments below. Sliders might not be a pillar of 90s sci-fi like Babylon 5 or Star Trek. It went through a brutal behind-the-scenes deconstruction that significantly altered the show until the actors and actresses really wanted nothing to do with it. Regardless, specifically the first few seasons, the show is peak sci-fi, using parallel universes to examine social norms in a classic adventure setting. It's fun, intriguing, and a solid premise that deserves a whole hell of a lot more than it received. My hope is that NBC understands what they have with the property and returns for one last slide. Sliders receives my highest recommendation.